Welcome into this Big Ten today. We are presented by Gatorade on this Friday. It is great to have you with us. Dave Revson. Dave Wan said, man, it's always fun on Friday. You get the huge anticipation. This is a great week. We got big games all over the board.
Absolutely, we do. And a little rivalry game coming on this week, right? Michigan State, Michigan. I always love those, you know, just an added little ingredient to what's going on for the fans as well as players and coaches. Excited
to talk about that one with Sherrone Moorre. As I mentioned, He is coming up on the show in just a bit. Let's get your big picture, though, first with our big story. And the big board takes us through it. 7 games in all, 3 in the early window. We've got Rutgers and Purdue. Second-ranked Indiana hosts UCLA, Northwestern, Nebraska. One of 3 games in the Big Ten featuring 2 5-2 teams going up against one another. Really important matchups for CFP hopes. Minnesota, Iowa in the same category. But our second game here on the Big Ten Network, the one we're focusing in on, Illinois and Washington. Huge challenge for both sides. Let's hear from the coaches, starting with Jed Fish.
We got to keep getting our run game going. I don't think it's not from a lack of trying. I think we had 35 rush attempts on average this season. I think we had 24 in the game the other day, 23 in the game the other day. And we'll continue to, make running the football a priority. I think the healthier we get back up front, maybe the more running lanes will open. But again, each week we're going to figure out how does a team try to take one guy away, and if they take one guy away, what does that mean for the others?
So I really respect what he does offensively. I think their quarterback is exceptional. I think the Boston receivers are a really, really good player. Their running back is obviously a very explosive, really powerful player that makes a lot of yards after contact. Defensively, I just have a lot of respect for Ryan and what he does. So I know they had a tough match on Saturday with Michigan, but I think they're going to be a really opportunistic group, and that venue is one of the best in college football, and I'm sure it'll be a great challenge for us.
You heard Brett Bielema singing the praises there of that Washington offense. How does Illinois' defense match up?
Well, they, I think fine. The big thing, when I think back on Illinois' defense, I go back to the Ohio State game. They didn't give up any big plays in that game, right?
Right.
That was the number one thing. When they walked out of there, they said, okay, we did not give up any big plays on the thing. And I tell you, it's a copycat league, Rever. And by that I mean, that Illinois is going to watch. Brent, refer to the Washington game. Wink Martindale had a nice plan for the quarterback game for DeMond Williams of Washington. So I would personally, look and see what did Michigan do to help take away the quarterback that we can incorporate into our defense. I'm not talking about adding anything new, but just maybe a little tweak here or there, and then don't give up the big play. To me, that'll be the 2 biggest things that I think Illinois' defense needs to do and could do to slow down this Washington offense.
And that's an area where Illinois has struggled this year. They've given up 95 plays of 10 yards or longer. It's the 3rd most in the Big Ten. It hasn't been a great defense this season, but as you talked about, they really played well against Ohio State, and now you got some time maybe to build on that with the bye week. They were the only team in the Big Ten with a bye. We saw Brett Bielema's record coming off byes, which is fabulous, 6-1. What about Washington? They had this huge game, huge opportunity against Michigan. Flat out didn't play well. Now, Michigan had a ton to do with that. They were fabulous in that game. But now, I mean, again, I was talking about 5-2. You're right there. If you run the table, you are going to be in that discussion and likely in the playoff if you go 10-2. But both these teams know now you've got to win. So how does Washington turn the page on that Michigan game?
Well, I want to see Washington play 4 quarters in rhythm. And by that, I mean, think about the beginning of the year. They fall behind the Rutgers, 2 or 3 teams, and then come back in the 4th quarter and score 2 or 3 touchdowns and win the game. Last week, it went to Michigan. It's 7-7 at halftime. It's a tie game, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, if history is true, Washington's coming on the second half. This is their half. And it didn't happen. It went the other way. It went the other way on them. So I think that Jed referenced in his interview there about running the ball. Sometimes it's not the yards that you get. We all want to have big touchdown runs. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying by running the football and staying with it, like he's going to do, like he said, That's what sets up your big pass plays. And that's how you get an opportunity to get Boston the ball and get your quarterback going a little bit. So you got to stay with the run game. Even though you're not making the big yards, stay with it. It's a key to winning. It really is.
Yeah, no doubt. And of course, can't turn it over. And that was their issue against Michigan. They had turned it over 3 times all year. They turned it over 3 times in that game. And again, that was the difference. In Illinois, as we know, I mean, Illinois is great at turning turnovers into points. It's been one of the things they've done so well this year and have done really historically under Brett Bielema.
The one quick point, I think Illinois coming off the bye, you got to find a way to get Luke Altmaier back in rhythm. You know, he played so great. The Ohio State game was off. But what can Brent do to get your quarterback back throwing in rhythm and kind of get that thing going again because of the bye week?
That'll be the challenge, no doubt, for the Illini, who had just 47 rushing yards in that game against Ohio State. It's part of our football doubleheader tomorrow. Kicks off with Rutgers against Purdue, and then the showdown between Illinois and Washington and Seattle. Coverage begins with countdown to kickoff, 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 Pacific, here on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. So the highest-ranked team in the Big Ten is off tomorrow. They are, of course, Ohio State, the number 1 team in the nation. The number 2 team in the nation, also from the Big Ten, that is Indiana, taking on UCLA. I mean, we could talk for hours about the Hoosiers, but I don't want to lose sight of what UCLA has done. I know you don't want to either. You were singing the praises of Tim Skipper, so give us a sense of kind of what has stood out about the job that he has done since taking over the Bruins.
I've listened to every one of his press conferences and interviews, because I wanted to find out about Tim Skipper. How is this happening? And why, I don't know why he's not being talked about in a more serious light. And maybe he is behind closed doors to be the head coach at UCLA.
Yep. I
mean, this guy is pushing all the right buttons, and you don't have to be a play caller. Everybody wants that offensive guru guy. No, you don't have. Be a CEO. There's a lot of head coaches around the league on all levels that play the CEO role, wherever. You get yourself a good, he's made some adjustments on offense with coaches. All of a sudden, Nico's playing at a high level, so he obviously has a good rapport with him. I don't know. I think they're doing an outstanding job. Here's the decision they got to make this week, in my opinion. When you got a quarterback like Nico, that really UCLA is going to go at this point, because their defense is struggling so much. And they got, they're not coming up with plays, turnovers, sacks, third down. They're struggling. As Nico goes, so goes UCLA. So here's the question: how much do you call quarterback runs? How much do you want him running the ball and having the football? He's going to do some on his own,
right?
But because if he gets hurt,
they still have a great tailback run game. So it kind of feels like if you can't run it from the tailback spot, you have to run it from the quarterback spot to a certain extent, right?
Yeah, but that's the balancing act. To me, we know we got to get better on defense with our sacks and our negative plays and turnovers. Okay, that's there. But the quarterback thing, how much and what do we do? That's the key with them. And Indiana, I mean, God.
Well, it's certainly gotten better, I want to say, for UCLA in the run game these last few games, and they featured it 700 rushing yards over the last 3 weeks. A lot of that has been Nico, though, and now you're up against Indiana, as you say. I mean, they are so formidable. They're so good. It's an amazing story, but as you look at them in this matchup and trying to keep his team motivated, what do you see here from Curt Cignetti's group?
In our prep meeting, we were talking, and you asked me, I says, Indiana exhausts me. I mean, that's the only word I can come up with, because it's 15 rounds of, they just never, it's pass, it's run. They execute so good. They execute so darn good on offense, defense, and special teams that you're sitting there and it's just, you're waiting for something to happen other than another first down or a sack, and it doesn't. It doesn't. So, I mean, we know they're well coached. They got great coordinators. They got that. But the biggest thing is, and I think that Sig said it, that, hey, they're 3-0. The biggest challenge right now, in my opinion, for Indiana is to find that little nugget every week. And he said last week, it wasn't until almost Friday where he felt like his team was getting to the place mentally where they needed to be for Michigan State. He said that in his press conference. And I remember as a head coach, sometimes it might be Saturday morning. something would happen and it would trigger and say, you know what, guys? And this is the thing. So I think his biggest challenge is every week judging his team, going through the routine, but what's the button this week that I got to push to take us over the top?
And the button this week, to your point, is, hey, UCLA's good. And
Yeah.
since
Oh,
they
yeah.
made this coaching
3-0.
change, yeah, I mean, they've really been good over these last few weeks. And,
Yep.
and you know, honestly, they lost the Northwestern game. They turned the corner in the second half of that game, and that was technically the first game with Tim Skipper. But yeah, since then, they've been incredible. And again, if you're trying to motivate your team, that's the way you got to do it. And
Absolutely.
it's clear Kurt Cignetti is trying to push all the right buttons, and he certainly has to this
Home
point.
field advantage. Who would ever said Bloomington, right?
Yeah, no, amazing. Yeah, they're working on the longest home win streak in school history, among other things. Later today, we got some field hockey action. 13th ranked Michigan squares off against number 2 Northwestern. Live coverage begins at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. If you are driving the equipment truck for Michigan, this is your dream road trip. Just an hour to cover between Ann Arbor and East Lansing as Michigan and Michigan State prepare to square off 118th renewal of that great in-state rivalry. And Michigan coach Sherrone Moorre joining us now for our big interview. Coach, let's start with the turnaround last week. You guys hadn't played great against USC, and it was just a completely different game against Washington, including you had struggled at the line of scrimmage against the Trojans, really different story in that game against the Huskies. How do you go about kind of reestablishing your identity in 1 week in the way you guys did?
You know, we really talked about attacking it head on. As a head coach of this program, you know, my job is to make sure that we're all in alignment. And no way, shape that I think that in USC game that we weren't. But we obviously didn't play very well. We didn't coach very well. We didn't play very well. And that's, as a collective unit, I didn't coach very well. So you got to look yourself in the mirror and you got to really attack things head on. We had some tough conversations and not always great conversations to have, but you got to have them if you want to be successful in this game of football. And I think we really took into that, and then we got back to the basics. We blocked, we tackled well, and we did that at a high level. We emphasized it, re-emphasized it in practice, which you always do as a coach. You're always emphasizing tackling and blocking, but we really talked about the how. You know, it's not the what. You know, you have plays, you have calls, but it's the how and how you do it, which really makes you better. And I thought our coaches and our kids just responded at an elite level because that team that we played last week was really good, and we're going to have another great team we got to play this week.
Tell me a little bit about, I know you're not going to get into the details of the tough conversations, as you called them, but just give me a sense. I mean, this is your second year as the head coach of this program. It's your second year as a head coach, period. So, I mean, I'd imagine you're still kind of trying to find your voice. When you find yourself in a situation like that, what's the challenge for you internally to figure out what's the right balance to strike with this group, knowing that you don't have a whole lot from the past to fall back on?
I think the thing I really lean on is growth and comfort don't coexist. You know, you can't be comfortable in these situations. You can't just go about doing the things you've always done to be successful. So that led me to, you know, look at myself. What do I need to do? What I need to do as the head coach? What do the coordinators? What do the coaches? What do the players need to do for us to be successful? And we can't look at the past because we're a completely different team than we were in 21, 22, 23, 24. We have different players at different positions. We're extremely young. You know, we're the youngest team in the Big Ten right now. So for us to be successful, we're going to have to do things different to make sure that we put ourselves in positions to play at a high level. And it felt like we did that at a high level last week.
Hey, Coach, one coach to another here. Boy, I have a lot of appreciation and respect for everything that you have handled. If you really sit back and think about it, you know, taking over for a Michigan legend, obviously Jim Harbaugh. We know that. Getting your staff aligned with people in the positions that you think they can be most productive, dealing with some past off-the-field issues. You know, it's just going out and then getting the top high school quarterback in the country, getting arguably maybe the best portal running back in the country. How do you manage all this and have the success that you're having? It's truly an incredible feat that you're doing right now.
Coach, that means a lot to me. I have a lot of respect for you and your career and what you've done, so that means a whole lot to me. I'd say the first thing is the man upstairs. There's a lot of praying that I do. When I wake up in the morning, when I get to the office, I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be here. And I know that, a lot of people would wish to be in this situation. So as it is, there are hard times, there are tough times. I'm still blessed. I'm still blessed to be able to be in these hard positions. So I take it as a true opportunity to make sure that our staff is prepared and there's a mindset and an urgency in everything that we do. So from all the things that have happened in the past to guys leaving to having, all the guys, go to the NFL and play at a high level. It's been a lot, but it's a blessing. And I thank the staff first. I think we've got a really good staff that sees the vision, that understands the vision. And then maybe most importantly, our players have really bought into everything we've done and understanding that, we're not the same team we have been. And there's things you've got to change. There's things you got to do different. And but I do think we're talented. I think we've got talented players. We obviously have really talented quarterback. We've got talented running back. We've got talented guys on defense. And we've got a chance to do something really special as we go out through the year. But my main focus for them is we've got to take it urgent week by week because you can't look at what's going to happen in the future. You can't control it.
Having coached defense a long time, and I was very fortunate, like you were. I mean, I had a couple first-round draft picks when we were at the University of Miami back in the day, and I always thought that defensive line was probably the one position on defense that took a little bit more time to bring along just because of maturity and strength and size. You lose Graham and Grant last year, 2 first-round picks. How did you manage to replace those guys and get these new guys, young guys, playing at such a good level right now?
Replacing by committee. You're not going to replace 2 first-rounders. You're not just going to put in 2 guys that are going to play just like those guys. So we've got about 6 guys we rotate in there to take that load. And you look at last year, Mason and KG probably played about 45, sometimes 55 snaps a game, which is way too much for a defensive tackle. So I feel, the guys that have played, Rayshon Benny's played a lot of football for us. He's gotten better and better. Trey Pierce is a kid that's stepped up. Enoetta is a kid, and then we took some transfers. Damon Payne, Trey Williams, we got some really good young kids, man, that are coming along, and the transfers have really impacted and brought it to the culture, which has helped us. So feel really good about that group. You're not going to replace those guys, but you definitely got to do what you can in the moment to make sure that you got guys playing at the highest level. And Coach Espo and that staff has done a great job with them.
One last question here. All right, I'm going to take you back to your playing days, okay? At Oklahoma, rivalry, Michigan State, Michigan. You played in a rivalry, okay? And I'm going to tell you my experience with the one you played in, the River Rivalry. When we were coaching the Cowboys, Jimmy Johnson, every year when you guys would be playing the Red River Rivalry, in the car, down to Dallas to the Cotton Bowl we went to see the half orange and half red and State Fair and everything about it. The reason Jimmy was on the staff, I'm taking you back in some of your Oklahoma history. 1970, Jimmy would tell the story. He was running the defense. Barry Switzer was running the offense. Texas beat you guys. Yes, Oklahoma.
This is before he was born. Don't blame it on him.
I'm giving him a history lesson, Coach. I'm here I'm here to teach. We're coaching. 49-0. And Barry Switzer went to Chuck Fairbanks, the coach, and said, we got to go to the wishbone. They had got beat the week before by Oregon State. And Chuck Fairbanks got a hold of the Texas coach, Darrell Royal. Yeah. And the originator the founder of the wishbone is a guy named Emory Ballard. He was the coordinator at Texas. Rever knows all these names. Okay, now Barry convinced him to put the wishbone in. 1970 is when the wishbone went in because Texas beat Oklahoma, 49-0. Now, tell me what your experience. Do you wish you could have been in a wishbone offense? I know you weren't, but I mean, tell me about that. Your experience in that game or whatever.
Yeah, as an old lineman, I wish I probably was in a wishbone offense. That means I wouldn't have had to pass at those pass rushes they had. That would have been a little bit easier for me. But that game is, historic, up there with one of the greatest rivalries in college sports, college athletics. Just the pageantry. I mean, the experience. I just remember riding in on the bus and people shaking the bus, the state fair, the smell of the cotton candy, the funnel cakes, the fried Oreos, all those things. And as a former lineman, of course, I remember the food. I remember going down the tunnel, and the one thing, the first experience I remember is like I'm going down the tunnel, and then all these police officers with shotguns in between. I'm like, well, this is nuts, and they're just lined up to divide both teams going down the tunnel and stop the fight. But it was a tremendous experience, and really got me mentally ready for a lot of the rivalries I deal with now.
Well, you've got one that you're dealing with here tomorrow against Michigan State. I'm just interested. We know that this is a rivalry that has gotten very emotional in recent years. What's your message to your guys, Sherrone, in advance of this game of how to deal with that component of it, with the emotional part?
Yeah, right after the game on Monday when we meet as a team, we talked about, we went through the stuff for Washington, got it corrected, and went right into the Michigan State game. And the number one thing I talked about with them is don't let the outside things distract them, and play with emotion, don't play emotional. Play with emotion, play with that fire, play with that passion. You've got to do those things in between the whistle. You got to have that heat, because this game is a little different than other games. So that is part of college football. These rivalries do mean a lot, and we talked about the history of them and what it means, and our record when our record here, what Paul Bunyan means to this building and this city. But we also talked about not playing emotional, and reacting to things instead of responding. And there's a difference, right? Reacting is just all of a sudden going off of instinct, and responding is taking a deep breath and really thinking about what you're doing. So we've really harped on that, and I was pretty blunt about I don't want anything happening before, after the whistles, or before the game or after the game. Use all that energy you have in the 60 minutes to go play the game as hard as you can, and that's all we're worried about.
We are looking forward to this one in prime time tomorrow. Sherrone, I know you got a lot going on day before game. Really appreciate you joining us here. Thanks a lot for your time.
No, I appreciate you guys.
You'll be watching in this game.
I think momentum is such a big thing in our game of football, and the way Michigan finished, can they pick up from the get-go, playing on the road at night in a rivalry game with the same emotion they finished the game versus Washington?
They've done a nice job in East Lansing recently, winning 3 of the last 4 there, but this is going to be a desperate Michigan State team, going to be a charged-up crowd, and should be a fabulous atmosphere. It's not just a football day tomorrow. If you're a Michigan fan, also some hoops. Don't miss a phenomenal exhibition matchup live on Big Ten Plus. Michigan battling St. John's at Madison Square Garden. Download the Big Ten Plus app today. It is always game on. It is time for our big stat. It is brought to you by Gatorade. Iowa brought in Mark Gronowski in the transfer portal. More than 10,000 career passing yards to South Dakota State. Thought he'd help open up the offense. Instead, what he's done is help make the ground game incredibly tough to defend. He is tied for 3rd in the nation with 10 rushing touchdowns. Iowa, as a team, rushing it nearly 60% of the time. That is tops in the Big Ten, top 5 in a number of other rushing categories that you see here as well. And as they prepare to battle Minnesota, I know you are impressed with the way that Iowa has integrated Gronowski into the offense and really based it around his strengths, Coach.
Yeah, we saw that his passing numbers before he went to Iowa, and I'm sure, I haven't talked to Kurt about it, but I'm sure that Kirk was thinking that, oh, okay, we're finally going to get a quarterback that is an athlete that can run, but hey, we're going to have a passer too, because you're always trying to be balanced on offense, run and pass. Well, the way the season started, the running ability showed up more. So they added plays. I mean, they legitimately give that off Tim Lester and the offensive coaches credit. They added some designated quarterback run plays to take advantage of their players. I mean, that's good coaching. That's good coaching. But in the back of your mind, if I'm PJ Fleck, I'm saying, I know this guy can throw it. You know what I mean? You cannot fall asleep and assume anything.
What about from Minnesota's point of view? Man, they are coming off a fabulous performance against Nebraska, one in which They excelled running the football where they had really struggled earlier this year. I mean, as recently as one game ago, you get Darius Taylor back. He was fantastic. Defense played lights out against what can be a potent Nebraska offense. They got to be feeling really good coming into this one.
I think P.J. Fleck may be doing as good a coaching job as he's ever done there. I really believe that. Young quarterback. Now that hopefully, they're going to be balanced with the run and pass because they cannot be one-dimensional. That would be the mistake that if they can't run the ball against Iowa's too good on defense, that throwing the ball against Iowa is not a good way to make a living, okay? We know that. But the thing that impressed me as much as anything with Minnesota is their defense. Every year they've turned over defensive coordinators. He moves up Danny Collins,
right,
who I think has been with PJ for 12 years, and he's got these guys playing outstanding football. I mean, their defense right now is playing about as good a defense as I can remember a Minnesota team playing, and it's starting up front. Those guys play the run, they rush the passer. They're a complete defensive unit.
We saw the 9 sacks in that game against the Huskers. The challenge now is, can you bring it on the road?
Right.
They're winless on the road. They're perfect at home this year. Tough environment, no doubt, at Kinnick. Tonight, don't miss men's soccer when the Hoosiers and Terps renew their rivalry. Live coverage begins at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. A top 15 matchup there. To say Nebraska's run game is reliant on Emmett Johnson would be an understatement. The Huskers back averaging more than 81% of their ground yards. That is the highest among all power conference backs. Plus, he's got 29 catches on the year, which leads the team. Johnson taking some time out of his busy workload to chat with our Ashley Adamson.
It is great to have the Big Ten's leading rusher with us. Emmett, thank you so much for making the time. I have been told that you are a bit of a team historian, so I am sure that you probably know this. It has been 11 years since a Nebraska running back led the conference in rushing. Do you know who the last Nebraska running back was to do that?
Yes, ma'am. Amir Abdullah is the last rusher to do that, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm glad we got off to a good start. It would not have been good if you had gotten that wrong. Amir Abdullah was the last Husker to do it. And I know that you've had a chance to connect with him in a pretty meaningful way. So tell us about the relationship, and has there been some advice or encouragement that he's shared with you as you've stepped into such a huge role this season?
Yes, ma'am. Amir has been a great mentor to me. I've watched a lot of his game and things that he's done in the past, but it's meant a lot. This offseason he had a football camp here in Lincoln. We spent a lot of time. We connected. We ate, breakfast. We got breakfast. We watched some tape, film. He's just a great guy that's willing to give back to the running back position here, but also just a great human. And I've learned a lot from him, on and off the field. The biggest advice I would say I got in the offseason is just understanding the game of football, understanding, what receivers have, just the concepts, route concepts, running the ball, being physical, just understanding the game, and then just letting everything take care of itself after that.
Well, it's clear that you've taken that advice to heart. And I think about the patience that you've shown in your journey. A couple of years ago, you're part of a crowded backfield, and now you're leading Nebraska in just about every offensive category. I know your team first, but that's a huge shift. So what does it mean, I guess, to have earned that trust from your coaches and your teammates?
Yes, ma'am. It means a lot to me. It's honestly a blessing. I just can thank God for that. Thank him for all the things I did in the off season. The preparation, I think that's when it really started. This is my best offseason in the weight room, on the field. I took a lot of time with my older brother, Charles Johnson. He took me through a lot of different drills to prepare me for the season. And so, it's a blessing. I can give credit to my teammates, my O-line, Coach Holgerson, just all the guys that play a part in that. And I know I got a long way to go. So I'm excited, but, I'm still really hungry. And I feel like I got a lot more to prove. So.
Yeah, and I know that your entire team feels that way. Obviously, the trip back home to Minnesota didn't go the way that any of you planned. Yeah. It's a long season, though, so I'm curious, what have the conversations been this week in the locker room, and how have you guys sort of refocused heading into a matchup with the Northwestern team that's playing its best football right now?
Yeah, and that's just adversity. Our team has been through a lot of adversity, and we're not going to let one loss define us. We're just going to watch the film and learn from it. And so that's what we did. We came in as a team, and we watched the tape, and we looked at the things that we didn't do well, and we got to learn to get better from it. And so this week, going to Northwestern is just an example of how the Big Ten is. You're going to play a lot of difficult teams. Anybody could beat anybody on any given week. So it's our job to bounce back, flush what happened last game, and just kind of grow and learn as a team. We're going to have to go out there and, play our best game of football. Northwestern isn't a team that we want to play around with, so we just got to focus on us, be all about the team, take it one day at a time. But I got a lot of trust in these guys. I know my teammates have a lot of trust in me. We just got to go do what we do best, and that's, playing Nebraska football, playing tough, playing a 4-quarter game, because, in the Big Ten, you can't just play 1 quarter. It comes down to 4 quarters of football, and so we got to prepare for that.
Yeah, well said. I really loved, Emmett, the Humble Beginnings feature that your creative team put together, and I'd encourage everybody watching to go check it out. You have an incredible family story, and I know your parents worked so hard to create opportunities for you. So how would you describe their journey and how that's sort of shaped you and your football journey?
Yeah, if you haven't watched that, you guys should go watch it. But it's a really special piece, and it kind of got me emotional just because of where my parents come from, and they just kind of raised me to be just a humble person and a respectful person. And that comes with just being a great person off the field too, not just on the field. And I'll say the humble beginnings part is just kind of, it's humbling for me, but also I want to be able to use my voice, be able to use my resources to be able to help, any other kids out there that need that. And that's just something I've been willing to do ever since I was a younger kid, is just give back to the community and also just, be a voice and be able to help them. And so my parents, I know they're proud of me and everything like that, but I just want to be the best person I can be on the field and also off the field. And when I leave Nebraska, I don't want them just saying Emmett Johnson was a great football player. I want them saying I was a great person as well. So those are the things I want to focus on, and I learned from my parents.
I love that, Emmett. Coach Rule talked this week about everyone, coaches and players, sort of taking ownership of what happened last week and what's going to happen moving forward. You guys are 5-2, like you're still right in the thick of everything. What's the biggest key to getting this season back on track on Saturday? Or maybe what's the message that you're giving your teammates heading into this game?
Yeah, I would just say stay in the moment. Stay focused on this moment in the present. A lot of people can say we're 5-2, and if we do this and this and this, we can get to that, but we got to focus on today. We got to focus on winning today. We can't look too far ahead. Like I said, the Big Ten's tough, so we have to bring it every single week. And so just to focusing on the present, focusing on what we have to do in order to beat Northwestern, and just taking it one day at a time. That's been the focus for the team. At the end of the day, you got to go take what's yours. The ownership part is just going to, owning your mistakes and moving on from it, and also taking what's yours. If you're supposed to dominate, you got to go out there and dominate. And so that's where that ownership part comes from. For me, in my game, I go back after every game and I watch, my mistakes and the things that I did bad. I don't really watch a lot of things I did good. Sometimes I do, but I try to focus on the things I can get better at, because you're never going to get to that point that you want to be unless you focus on your mistakes. And so that's what I've been doing, is owning my mistakes, just learning from that and growing.
Spoken like a true team guy. I love it. I appreciate it, Emmett. We look forward to watching you on Saturday and having our tailgate crew. Thanks for the time, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Yes, ma'am. Appreciate you.
Really interesting stuff there, Coach. And good as Johnson has been, this really is a pass-first team with Dana Holgorsen and Dylan Raiola. What do you think about, what do you see when you watch the Husker quarterback?
Well, every quarterback, you talk about accuracy, you talk about arm strength, you talk about intelligence. I got 3 plays here that I think highlight that what Dylan does exceptionally well. This first play, we talk about quarterbacks have to have vision. Well, I always said, did they see the whole field or one receiver? If I was a quarterback, I'd probably see one receiver. Watch Dylan here. He moves out of the pocket. Now, in this case here, I'd be saying throw it to the running back. But Dylan has the ability to see the whole field. He sees a receiver that's open deep, makes the throw, for a big gain. This second one, look at Michigan's got 8 guys at the line of scrimmage. If you're the quarterback, how many are coming? 3, 7, 8, who knows? So my job is, on the snap of the ball, watch what happens. Now you got to read the coverage. Do not look at the pass rush. That's the key for this. So he's looking at the coverage. Is it man? Is it zone? He sees it as a 2-deep zone. He makes the throw down the middle of the field to split the defense. It's a touchdown. So the key there, don't look at the pass rush. A lot of quarterbacks get caught up on that. This one right here, red zone alert. I'm going to explain it after the play, but we got points on the board. Look where the ball's at, 15-yard line. He gets flushed out of the pocket because of pressure. Right now, you got to throw it away or throw it where nobody except your receiver can catch it. That's exactly what he does. If this receiver doesn't make a great catch for a touchdown, the ball is going to go out of bounds. And when I say red zone alert, what I'm talking about, right now, any quarterback I had, if you grabbed Jim Harbaugh and you said red zone alert, you know what he'd say? Do not turn the ball over, do not take a sack, and do not change the snap count. I've told that's the only thing I would ever teach a quarterback. Because why? We got 3 points. So that was a great job of doing right there, of not taking the sack and not forcing the turnover.
The not taking a sack part has been easier said than done, though, Coach. I mean, he took 9 in that Minnesota game. How much do you feel like is on him? How much is on the O-line? And how hard is it to rectify that in a week?
Yeah, you know, at some point, you have to simplify it probably a little bit. If your offensive line is that big of a problem, you got to get the ball out quicker. And tell him, get the ball out. Don't be looking for the big throw. Take the money, as we say, take the easy throw.
The challenge this week is you're going up against a Northwestern defense that feels really good about themselves. I mean, they're coming off their first shutout in 8 years here, Wani, as they blanked Purdue last week. What are you seeing from that defense? Tim McGargle doing a really nice job as the DC.
Tim has done a fabulous job. I'll tell you the biggest adjustment. We always talk about defense. You want to set a new line of scrimmage. And we're going to show you a play right here. Watch this run defense. That's why they've done so well. The defensive linebackers were attacking the line of scrimmage. You see the purple line? That's a line of scrimmage. Watch when the ball snapped right here. Look at Northwestern's defensive line. They've got everybody from Purdue knocked back. Now the linebackers are going to join the party. They're coming downhill, Rever. And even the safety, once he sees that it's run and the ball's handed off, they're getting the safety involved coming up right there. He's coming up and he's involved in it. So we got 8 guys at the line of scrimmage. You're not going to run the football. They're doing a great job of that. Then the other thing they're doing, they're starting to get pressure now on defense, which they need. And they're running what we call twist. And you can run tackle end, whoever goes first, or end tackle. Right here, it's going to be a nice picture of the tackle coming out and going inside, and we get it. And these are nice to talk about, Rever, okay? But you got to execute them. Watch on the bottom. Now we get the same thing. We got a double twist. I mean, this is stuff that they do in the NFL. Seriously, you got to know what you're doing and you got to execute it. Watch the twist on the bottom. The end comes under, tackle comes around, he gets the sack. So it's, again, execution. We're going to show you what happened on the top. I said it was a double twist. Watch what happens here. Your tackle's going to go out. Your end's going to come up underneath. And the key is that we are always working to the quarterback. Here comes the end up underneath. He gets the force right there, which leads to an interception. And you know what? I used to tell my defensive line coaches, because they all want to run twist. I said, that stuff looks good on the chalkboard. Okay, yeah. Rever? That sounds good. But I want to see, can we execute it? And what Northwestern does such a great job of, when they run their twist, we would always coach, your job's half over. Your job is keep going and get to the quarterback. They do a super job of that. They really do. I mean, I can appreciate what they're teaching.
Yeah, relentless group there, and it's pretty amazing to see the progress they've made during the course of this season. You think about early in the year, it wasn't as good a defense as it is now. Certainly Tulane ran them over in that opener, but Northwestern now 11th in the nation in scoring defense, so should be a good X and O matchup here between the Huskers and the Wildcats.
And that's a good combination of the coaches identifying the problem and then getting to the players and the players going out and working at it and executing it.
One win away from making a bowl game for the second time in 3 years under David Braun. Speaking of that matchup, tomorrow, Big Ten tailgate live from Nebraska. All the pregame festivities before the Huskers host Northwestern. Then countdown to kickoff takes you on the field around the conference right before the action begins. It all starts tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. It is time to go around the Big Ten, starting with hockey. How about number 3 Michigan pounding defending national champion Western Michigan last night, blanking the 4th-ranked Broncos 4-0 at Yost. Michigan 7-0 for the first time since 1979. Same 2 teams play again tonight in Kalamazoo. Volleyball last night, 22nd ranked USC, a straight sets winner over Maryland. Trojans hit a season best 427 in the sweep to improve to 9-2 at home this year. They'll battle Washington Sunday on Big Ten Plus. We got volleyball tonight on the network. The Big Ten Discover Volleyball Challenge. First, Minnesota battles Indiana, a top 25 matchup. Then later, number 12 Wisconsin clashes with Washington. Coverage begins at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. Let's get back into football now, Coach. Oregon and Wisconsin. And Oregon, we saw what happened to them against Indiana. I would say they bounced back. Is it fair to say they recovered against Rutgers? 750 yards.
I thought I heard that wrong. I honestly go. When
750 yards
because of Greg and Rutgers' defense. You know, I mean, I thought
12 and a half yards a play. Yeah. You get a first down on average every time you snap the ball with 2.5 yards to spare. And now they get Wisconsin. What has stood out to you the most about Oregon State?
Well, the big plays. I'm not even going to say that. You know what? One word, Dan Lanning, the word is development and growth. You know, he's got a young football team. I think that loss that he had early to Indiana was really helpful to him. I think that they need situations like that to continue to grow. You know, he's made the comment several times he wants to play his best football at the end of the season. I mean, he's playing freshmen, sophomores, a lot of young players, inexperienced players. I think they're right where they want to be. I think he's sitting back there saying, hey, we just got to play well the last half of the season here in November, and we're going to be in the hunt at the end of the day. I think he believes that, and the way this team plays, there's no reason they shouldn't be. You know?
It's amazing to do it with one starter back on offense.
Unbelievable. I mean, and I thought they were playing these younger players early in the year against non-conference teams. It's continued all year.
And they get a struggling Badgers team been more than 122 minutes since Wisconsin has scored a point.
They got to play clean.
You go on the road against Oregon.
Got to play clean to have a chance.
Now, Badger football tomorrow. We got Badger men's hoops tonight on Big Ten Plus. John Blackwell and company in Milwaukee for exhibition action against Oklahoma. Download the Big Ten Plus app today. It is always game on. Wrapping things up here on Big Ten today. Rutgers started the year with such promise, 3-0. They have lost 4 in a row subsequent to that. You look at the schedules, they try to get to 6 and make it to a bowl game. Certainly there are winnable games left there, but you got 2 ranked opponents in Illinois and Ohio State. So if you're going to get to 6, this game at Purdue is huge tomorrow. Obviously, Purdue is desperate as well. Coach, they're looking to break a losing streak in conference games, which has now equaled the school record. Both these teams need a W, which is what makes a game like this so big this time of year. What are you watching here?
Well, Greg came out this week and said that you don't have to do anything with the offense. He came out and said he was so disappointed in the defense and, that they were going to do something different. I mean, I would expect them, being that Purdue's going to be playing with a backup quarterback, I would expect Rutgers and Greg to come out and be very aggressive. I mean, from a blitz standpoint. I mean, Purdue's going to have to run the ball. We know that. And so the run blitzes and pressure on the quarterback, I think, is going to be a key for them. And then expect him to do something in special teams. I promise you, he's going to they may not have a punt return. They may try to block a punt every time this week. I know Greg. And on the other side, I'll tell you, Barry Odom, I was so encouraged at the beginning of the year because he was winning the games he was supposed to, but they were doing it clean. They weren't committing penalties, right?
Yeah.
They weren't turning the ball over. Last week, 9 penalties against Northwestern, 3 turnovers. I mean, if you do that when you're trying to build a program like he is on the ground floor, it's tough to overcome those things.
And to your point, this is a trend now. It's the last 2 weeks. They've had 17 penalties and 7 turnovers. And now, as you said, backup quarterback, although I will say this, Singleton, I thought, played pretty well against Northwestern. The game was already lost at that point, but Ryan Brown really struggled in that game, too. I mean, as you pointed out earlier, Northwestern's got a really good defense, so that was part of it. But we saw Purdue move the ball up and down the field on Notre Dame. There's no reason they can't move the ball on this Rutgers defense.
Yeah, but they're going to have to throw it, because if they're one-dimensional against Rutgers, they're going to come up with it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough on was it Mockabee?
Mockabee.
Yep. I mean, it's going to be tough on him. I think he was around 3 yards of carry against Northwestern. It's going to be tough on him to do much more than that. I think if they're one-dimensional, if they cannot throw the football, that'll be the key for Purdue.
Again, you look at this Rutgers defense, 7.8 yards per play. They are giving up.
I can't say it, Coach.
No, it's bad. It's bad. It's so counter to what we've seen from Greg Schiano through the years. Obviously, you know him quite well. He will work, as you know, tirelessly to try to turn this thing around.
Oh, he's in the office.
Obviously.
He got no sleep this week, I promise you that. That's the only thing I do know. He didn't sleep.
Well, we are going to have a good night of sleep, a good night of rest, and then we're going to get ready for a huge day of football tomorrow. Can't wait to see you here on the Big Ten Network.